Hello there, guys. Welcome back to my channel for preview and predicted 11 and all sorts of Chelsea news and transfer news. Live stream ahead of Tottenham versus Chelsea in the second leg of the Carabao Cup semi-bloody final. And we won the first leg 2-0, so that's good. Should we have won it by about 3, 4, or 5? Yes, we should have done. But I guess it still means tomorrow's game is going to be a bit of fun, probably, hopefully, as long as we don't bottle it. So, you can look at it in a positive way. I can hear weird sounds. I think that one must have been Craig. So I'm going to mute him for the time being. Craig is currently struggling with slight internet difficulties, hence why he's turned his camera off. Usually, obviously, his camera is on. So we hope that's going to fix itself, and either we can even turn the camera on, but at least the sound is fine. If not 1,000,000% sure what we're going to do. But, that's what we're here to do. Improvise a little bit. But there's actually a lot to get through today, because obviously it's been actually a couple of days since I last streamed. And yeah, things are developing too slowly, but interestingly, one could argue. So I will talk about transfer news before we get into actually talking about Tottenham tomorrow. But Clutch, first of all, thank you for coming. How's the last 2 days been for you? I know you messaged me earlier, was it yesterday? I can't even remember when it was. You were like, oh, no, that probably means more Alonso. So other than that, I hope you're feeling good and excited for the game tomorrow. I cannot hear you.
My mic somehow got muted. Thank you as always. But yeah, no, the last couple of days was good. A little bad yesterday when I remembered Alonso was still probably going to be starting for the next 3 months until maybe the summer, and we might go after somebody. But it's been pretty good. I'm excited because I love watching Chelsea, obviously, which is why I love doing these things. So for me, it's been a long couple days. Anytime I don't get to watch. Because I haven't been watching the African Cup of Nations. I haven't been watching any. I don't think I watched United. I did not watch United yesterday. So, but tomorrow's gonna be fun. Should get it done.
We should. But I will say, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, I have watched a bit of the African Cup of Nations so far. I mean, it's been a bit dull. I can't lie. It's been a bit dull. All the games I've watched, I've either been decided by penalties or dodgy refereeing decisions. Nothing against AFCON. I hope it just gets better. But what I've seen so far hasn't been particularly brilliant. But big up everyone that's tuned in already. Gavman, I'm going to call you Amin because I'm not sure how I'm going to get your first name out. Sorry, bro. Billy, appreciate you as well. And Cranky Pants, of course, as well. Ian, shall we try this? Let's see how well I can hear you. Thank you for coming.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
There you go. Speak a little bit and then let's see what happens.
I hope everyone can hear me all good, and I hope everyone is loving life at the moment. Chelsea fan.
It is a bit laggy. I can't lie. Yeah. It is a little bit laggy. Do you have any idea of how you can improve that situation, or do you not really know what to do about it because it's roadworks?
No, I haven't got a clue.
Okay. Go and shove the people who are doing roadworks down the drain or something.
Oh,
exactly.
I'd love to.
Do you have enough data to do this on your phone?
Oh, that's a different question. I'll tell you what, let me come out of this. You and Clutch have a good old chat, and then I'll try and come back into it later and see if my phone does anything different.
We can do that, for sure. Myself and Clutch will keep the people entertained. Do not worry.
See you in a bit.
See you in a second, mate. See you in a second. Tom Alex in the chat said Cameroon, Burkina Faso was a nice match. To be fair, I didn't get to see that one, actually. That was a bit unfortunate. But it was decided by 2 penalties. Not saying that's not good, but it's just not that fun, is it? Do you know what I mean? Especially a penalty in, what was it, the 44th and the 47th minute of the first half. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, unfortunately, guys, let's hope we can fix Ian's internet issues, because we would obviously like to be at least 3 people. That's what we tend to do with. But if not, myself and Clutch will keep you entertained. Do not worry, like I just said. But Clutch, I mean, we did talk about it. And there's been a lot of people that didn't quite want to believe it, or that refused to believe it, or whichever way you want to look at it. But even those people have calmed down a little bit because more and more credible sources have said the same thing. But obviously a lot of people, including ourselves to some extent, wanted a new left back, whatever you want to call it. And we were linked to, of course, Lucas Digne. I had your expert on here a couple of weeks ago talking about who we could look at. He was talking about Angelino, but also Digne. But it seems like Thomas Tuchel himself, at least reportedly, was the one that decided to, rather than trying to sign Lucas Digne, would prefer to recall Emerson Palmieri from his loan at Olympique Lyon. So, personally, I think it's a totally logical decision. It makes sense. And if it is genuinely Tuchel's opinion and Tuchel's, that's what he wants, then we should 1,000,000% back it. We should just bloody get it done. Because, obviously Lyon don't want to just give us Emerson. I get it. Totally understand. But, and the criticism that people have thrown up and that I, to some extent, agree with, if I'm being perfectly honest with you guys, Ben Chilwell got injured in November. Whether at the time they thought, whatever the likelihood they thought was of him recovering without surgery, as far as we're publicly aware, doctors at the time suggested surgery. Of course, doctors always suggest surgeries because they're doctors, right? That's what they do. Ask any doctor, they will tell you that. This is not me slagging off doctors, not by any means. But still, it's a bit weird that we're only the last week or so starting to try and recall Emerson. Like, surely we should have tried to figure that out basically the second Chile got injured. Or at least the second we knew he was going to have surgery. And even that's a few weeks ago at this point. So we just need to get it done. But for you, Clutch, is it a logical and a sensible decision to go for Emerson over Digne, who, of course, now is on his way to Aston Villa, by the way? So it's not like if the Emerson thing doesn't happen, we can now still go for Digne. That's also half the problem. If we can't get Emerson back from his loan, or if we're not willing to pay enough to get him back, then what? Then there's a real problem. But I'm going to back Chelsea and hope that we can just get this Emerson situation done. But does getting Emerson over Digne make sense to you, Clutch?
I think it makes sense from if you're looking at it from a club perspective, where if you go and buy another left wing back, January, and then you come to the summer, you're going to have 6 left backs that we're going to have to figure out what to do with. So it makes sense from that point of view. Yeah, Baba Rahman, Alonso, Emerson, then whoever you buy new, Chile, and then Matson. So all 6 of them will be around. That's if you buy a new one.
Yep.
So I understand it from that point of view. I don't understand. I mean, maybe Tuchel just has more faith in Alonso than we do. I mean, clearly he does. I mean, because he preferred him at the beginning of the season anyway. It's just, for me, I think it's I don't think Alonso's that good, and I don't think we're gonna win anything with him starting, and I don't think Emerson's coming back to replace Alonso. I think Emerson's coming back to back up Alonso, and I don't think that's fair to him. And for me, I think it's just the club. I think this is more of a club decision. Like, say, hey, the club's like, hey, we'll give you X amount of money for for your transfers this year. You decide what you want. We could recall somebody, and then you can go buy a right wing back, such as Dest or whatever, or you can spend the money on the left wing back, and you'll have to figure out what to do with your right wing back. And we'll have to either call Dijon Sterling. I think it's more of a club perspective. I don't think. I mean, I can't imagine Tuchel saying, "Yeah, I want Emerson now," after not preferring him at all last year, even when there was times we could have used him for perfectly reasonable scenarios. So it doesn't make sense to me that now he comes back to replace Alonso when he would just be coming back to basically be his backup. And I don't want to see Alonso anymore. I'm sorry, we're not going to win the Champions League with him starting. We're not going to win. I mean, we might win the FA Cup, but we're not going to win. We're not going to catch up in the title race, even though I think it's over anyway. The goal should still be to try to catch up. And for me, I think it's just the club is unwilling, doesn't really want to spend money. And you kind of get that sense because, I mean, they didn't even have a plan for this. Like you said, there is that problem that it seems like we've known Chile's going to be out for a while. I mean, I don't care what doctor says. Oh yeah, there's a chance he'll be back. ACLs are still tricky things. They're the worst injury you can probably get as a footballer. So in that perspective, you're sitting here thinking, oh, November he got hurt. You had the entire month of December to figure something out. We're now a week and a half into January, and we're still scrambling to kind of figure out what we want to do. I mean, it's not like we didn't know these problems existed, especially on the right side, when Tuchel said, hey, I need a right-sided wing-back or right-sided defender in the summer, and we didn't go and get it for X reason or whatever. I think it's the blind support of the board that kind of gets me. And this is the same board that in the same period of 10 years, we've had like 8 or 9 different managers. So I don't trust them as much as other people would trust them, because I know the fuse, the short leash that managers tend to be on. And I just feel like you should be backing Tuchel. I mean, if it's an honest opinion that Tuchel wants Emerson, fine, whatever. I can understand it. I could be okay with it. But at the same time, I think it just comes down to, for me, I don't rate Alonso, and I don't think Emerson's going to replace Alonso, and that's kind of what upsets me.
I get that. Ladies and gentlemen in the chat, if you're here, put it in the chat whether you see what the club is doing, because the club just raised a lot of fair points. Like, you almost have to look at it in two separate things. Should the club have been quicker at sorting this out? Should the club potentially have looked at more different targets? Potentially. And they should have probably done better on those things. But once we're down to essentially deciding between, do we sign Digne for like 25 to 30 million pounds, who's 28, nearly 29 as far as I'm aware, or do we recall Emerson? Once we go to that discussion, I then understand and back the decision of getting Emerson back rather than Digne, because there are a few things you need to consider about January transfers, right? First of all, you don't just get whoever you want, right? Like, even if we wanted Theo Hernandez, for example, from AC Milan right now, even if we offered stupendous amounts of money, like 60 million euros, 50 million pounds, 60 million pounds, whatever, right? Even if we offered that in the middle of the season, even for big money like that, chances are AC Milan would turn that down. Like, in January, you don't just get everything you want. I mean, hell, even in summer, you don't get everything you want. But in January, you definitely don't. That is one part of the problem. The second part of the problem is why, in my opinion, Tuchel prefers Emerson. Does he maybe think Emerson's just better than Digne? Could be. Could very well be. But I think part of that is 1,000,000% the fact whoever you sign right now, whether it's Digne, whether it's whoever else, sure, Digne is from the same league. But have you watched Everton play? Like, that's a whole different ballgame. Like, personally, I think certain people drastically overvalue the fact that Premier League experience. Lukaku is Premier League experience. And still, Tuchel tells us all the time he still needs to adapt. So, like, even though he didn't spend his last 2 years in the Premier League, Lukaku had spent like 6, 7, 8 seasons in the Premier League before that. And still, he has certain problems with adaptation. Sure, maybe half of the problem is him loving Inter too much. That's a whole different debate. But still, that if you ever needed a sign, that just because you know the Premier League doesn't mean you're automatically good, it's not quite that easy. And Digne doesn't play in a back three system. He doesn't play as a wing back. Yes, he might be a quite offensive left back, sure. But he doesn't, like, he plays in an extremely defensive system under Benitez. Sure, before that, under the previous managers, they were a bit more offensive, but still, it's a different system. So how long will it take until Tuchel is actually comfortable in whoever he signed starting big games? Because at that point, what difference does it make? You might as well not. If Emerson comes back, first of all, he's had a good 6 months, where he's played a lot of football, so he's arguably in a better stage than he's been at ever when Tuchel has seen him. Because even before Tuchel was here, Frank didn't play him because obviously Chile was playing, right? So, and he obviously still has the boost from the Euros coming up, right? So Emerson just comes in and is able to play essentially the day after, essentially, right? Because our system hasn't really drastically changed. He knows the system. He knows everybody here. Everything's super easy. The problem, though, that Clutch just mentioned is that last season, Alonso was playing over Emerson. Did I agree with it at the time? No. Do I agree with it now if it does happen again? No. But we can't just sometimes decide we're going to back Tuchel now, and sometimes we're going to say, oh, well, I don't back him now. I can disagree with him, but if that's what he thinks is best, who am I to disagree? Because we're not going to get the super big left backs. And I raised this concern very early into our interest in, and Craig, I'll get you in just a second. I raised this concern very early into our interest in Digne. What if Digne would have ended up just another Alonso or another Emerson? Like, the guy is already 28, 29. What if he's not as good as some people are trying to tell you? And then we have another player who we signed for money. He will be another Barkley. Could be. I'm not saying he would be, but he could be. And we'll have another player on high wages, another left back on high wages that we can't bloody get rid of. Would that make the situation better? A small counter argument to what Clutch said, though. There is, like, the likelihood of, if we leave Emerson at Lyon, the likelihood of them just making use of their option to buy, which they do have, is quite big. So whether we would sign someone right now or whether we would bring Emerson back, we'd probably have the same number of left backs come the summer, if I'm being perfectly honest. Do you know what I mean, Clutch?
Yeah, I mean, from that point of view, I get it, and it's just I get to this point where, like, I'm really afraid that when Chile does come back, he's not going to be that same player, and I think I agree because January transfer windows are really stupid, and you're never going to get the idea target. And the more I think about it, the more I'm okay. I mean, I would be completely okay with it if Emerson comes back and he just plays and he's the starter. I like Emerson. I think Emerson's a decent option. I think he's a much better option than Alonso, and he can actually switch into a back four if he needs to. For me, I like Emerson over Alonso, but my problem is history tells me that that's not how it's gonna go down, and I'm still gonna be stuck watching a half a mile an hour player get beat by, I don't know, Callum Robson, just a random person to name somebody. But I mean, I back Tuchel, but I also disagree with some of his idea transfers, I guess. I mean, we'll get to another one later that I really don't agree with, but I mean, at this point, if you're going to make Emerson happen, you need to make it happen now, because we do need that reinforcement, because we need to move back onto the right wing back conversation, because we can't keep having Callum and Pulisic play that either. So I think that's also a problem that we're going to have to address here.
That is a problem that we're going to have to address for sure. Another problem that we're going to have to address is Ian's internet issue. So let's see whether we have at least been able to improve those. Ian, I'll start with the questions. You can just answer, and then we'll see how that works. What's your thoughts on... Let's just take it as fact. Whether it is fact or not, it's pure speculation on our end, right? Not if. But what do you make of Tuchel's preference of getting Emerson back rather than signing Lucas Digne, essentially?
Oh, I'm a big fan of it. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I don't know if you can.
It's better. It's not perfect, but it's better. But let's keep going for now.
I'm a fan of it. I mean, you're paying less money for probably a better left back, someone who knows the club, knows the system. And although Emerson went and you're going to have to pay some sort of compensation for him, I'll be honest with you, I don't think he should have gone in the first place. I think Alonso is the one that should have gone. The business side of it with Emerson is that he will make you more money than Alonso would. So if you did want to go and give, you wanted to go and push for different transfers and you had to sell one, because we all know Chilwell was going to be the first choice regardless. If you had to go and push for options in a different area and you had to go and sell one of the two to fund a big transfer in one of those other key areas like Lukaku or someone, then Emerson would be worth the most money compared to Alonso. So it makes sense that he goes. But in terms of actual quality for Chelsea and what it means, Alonso cannot play now another half of a season, week in, week out, every single game, to the same level that probably Emerson could. So I think it's a very simple question about bringing him back, which is, does he make Chelsea better? Yeah, and it's only going to cost us 4 or 5 million euros.
It is true. It is true. I will put one, not counter argument, but one argument that Clutch has raised, in the sense that the negative of bringing Emerson back is that we're almost guaranteed to have Alonso start most of the games anyway, because otherwise, why would have Tuchel always picked Alonso over Emerson at the end of last season? Obviously, things could have changed, but if we're talking of likelihoods here, it is more likely that he's going to continue to pick Alonso over Emerson. So then does it really help us much other than save us money?
I think the big thing for me is who plays right wing back. Reece James was playing there a lot at the end of last season, so it makes a lot of sense. If you have got Reece James who has got a bit of pace, who can go forward, that you can actually play Alonso as left wing back and you get away with it. But if you have two very slow aging wing backs, neither of them are going to get forward. And the whole thing that Tuchel's system does in terms of getting players forward and creating overloads is not going to happen. Where at least if you do have to play, as Asper as the right wing back, you can then play Emerson as the other one, and Emerson's the one that's going to go and get forward a little bit more than Aspie will. If you want to go and play Hudson-Odoi or Pulisic, then Alonso's the one that's going to probably sit back a little bit more, and then go forward. So there's positives and negatives with both bits of it, but I think that bringing back Emerson gives you more options overall than bringing in someone like Lucas Digne, who may or may not do well. At least you know Emerson knows what he's going to have to do.
Yeah, it is true. It is true. Ladies and gentlemen, I presume you can hear the small internet problems that Ian still does have. Like, I think we can all perfectly understand and hear him. It's just not great to listen to. So if you put it in the chat whether you would like, sounds bad, but whether you would prefer to have Ian here and listen to him, but even though he's a bit, like, it keeps interrupting a little bit, or whether you think it's better to just, Ian comes on another time when his internet is better. You decide that in the chat, or you let me know what you think about that in the chat. And I put actually another question to you, Ian, because Clutch just kind of raised it a second ago. The left side is one thing. Presumably, at some point, we will get Emerson. Again, we've criticized, should have all happened much quicker. So,
Agreed.
That's a negative. But we will probably eventually get him back, hopefully sooner rather than later. But what about the right side? Because, yes, there's small links with Serginho Dest, but it's not big. And do I really want to recall Dujon Sterling? No. Like, the guy isn't even that young anymore. I mean, whenever he's played in preseason, he's not even been half bad, if we're being perfectly honest. I guess. But
didn't he play right center back in preseason, though?
He did,
Once.
But obviously he can still play right wing back if he needs to.
Yeah. I don't like the Dest move. I think it's trying to get someone who, he's out of favour at Barcelona at the moment for Dani Alves. That says something. It might not say a lot, but it says something. He's young, there's opportunities for him to grow, but why go and sign someone who could grow when you know that Reece James will grow and he will be a better player regardless? There's nothing wrong. You haven't improve your team. You have always got to go and replace someone who's in the starting 11. You can replace a bench player or whatever. And obviously the links with us for the question potentially moving on is, in terms of right backs, if you did want to change to a different system, your right back options are going to be two youngsters. Reece James can definitely play right back. We know that. So Serginho Dest is probably better going forward than he is defensively. So then just limit your options basically. And that's the thing for me, that I wouldn't want Serginho Dest to come in and then essentially do absolutely nothing through no fault of his own. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know who I would go and get as a right wing back or a right back option. I'm not too sure. I just don't think Serginho Dest is it, because I feel like all you're doing is helping out Barcelona rather than actually making us better, which is meant to be the whole point.
It's a really tough one, the right side. To be honest, I'm surprised that Tuchel the other day, it wasn't today, but it was in the last pre-match press conference, said that so specifically that he's looking at the right-sided defender, because not because I don't want it, but because Reece James is only out for 6 to 8 weeks. That happened over 2 weeks ago at this point. So from now on, he's out for another 3.5 to 5.5 weeks. Obviously, he won't be back playing the day after, but another few weeks later probably. But still, so we have someone returning here. The bigger problem more is our centre backs, really, because yes, none of us are biggest fans of Aspie right wing back, but we beat Real Madrid in the Champions League semi-final with Aspie right wing back. So
correct.
I'm not saying he's ideal for it, but it's not like we have nothing and no one. Like, if we need to be a bit more defensive, start Aspie, and if we want to be a bit more aggressive, play Callum, would be how I would go through that if we don't want to sign anybody.
Completely.
Because
correct.
I do see the exact problem that Ian mentioned. What about a potential formation change? And again, we go back to the same problem that we have with signing someone better than Digne right now. It's January. You don't get someone better. That's what January is. Yeah, I know we signed Torres in January and Matic and David Luiz. I get that. But that was, first of all, a very different time when we signed them from abroad. Would you have, except Torres, obviously, but would you have, would you want signing a Matic from, say, Benfica and trust that guy to start tomorrow? To be fair, if we signed Grimaldo from Benfica, I wouldn't be that upset, and he would probably be better than both Emerson and Alonso. I can't lie. But, you know, Benfica was a bad example here. But still, the right side is a difficult one because on the left side, we have to probably have too many players. On the right side, we don't have enough players anyway because we don't know whether Aspie stays is half the problem. So whether Aspie is an option now, if Aspie leaves in the summer, we need one anyway. So then I guess you might as well sign one now. But again, options like who? People talk about the Ajax right back, sure, but Ajax are in a great run in the Champions League. I don't know their league situation, but I presume they're on the verge of winning that, or not on the verge of winning it, but they're probably in the fight for winning that as well.
Yeah, it's a horse race.
Exactly. And then they're probably not going to just say yes to giving us their player. I mean, they didn't even sell us Ziyech in the January window. They only agreed to let him join us in the summer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's an annoying one because again, you don't know who's available. You don't know who's available. You're not going to attract someone in. And again, I mean, I saw a comment in just there from Ritz about one fit right wing back in the future is uncertain. I don't think that it necessarily. I don't think Reece James' future is uncertain at Chelsea. The injuries thing that makes it uncertain. I'll agree with that. But I just
I think because Reece isn't fit, right? So he means Aspie's future is uncertain.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, sorry, one foot. I didn't read that there. So I mean, for me, if you sign Aspie, he can play as a centre back or as a right wing back or a right back. So you've got 3 potential positions covered there. So just keep him. And he loves Chelsea. He loves being in London. He might want a bit more game time. I understand that, but keep Aspie for as long as you can. He's a good servant.
Okay, but what if we can't though? What if he has his heart set on I want to go to Barcelona now because
I genuinely don't think he does. I genuinely don't think he does because there's been a bit of flipping and flopping from Azpilicueta about I'm going to go to Barcelona, then I might be interested in a contract talk, then I might want 2 years, then I might want 1. I think if you can keep him around, just do it. Just totally do it because Barcelona in that situation at the moment is so uncertain. Again, they've brought back Dani Alves, and he's now starting right back. They've got this Serginho Dest, who they potentially see as the future. So going for Aspie to go instantly to Barcelona, unless they're going to play a back 3 and he plays centre back, which wouldn't surprise me actually. But if he went for it, and the move didn't work out, he's thrown away a potential luxury situation at Chelsea. Club captain, great servant, good money. Won't play as much and probably will prolong his career so he could eventually go to Barcelona or was it Osasuna?
Yeah, Osasuna.
Yeah. He could potentially go back to Osasuna and retire there or something like that. It really does depend. But I think, again, you don't want to sign someone for the sake of signing someone. And that was the problem with Lucas Digne. You were signing him for the sake of it. Chelsea were going to go in, could have potentially gone into next season with 5 left-back options or left-wing-back options, where we're now looking at the right-hand side. It's a completely different thing. If you were to go and sign Serginho Dest and then Azpilicueta says, yeah, I want to stay around, I love London, and then you've got Reece James who comes back and is absolutely perfectly fine. You've then got 3 options where you didn't actually need one. So you're going to then see your club captain, you're going to tell him to give him the heave-ho, because after you've probably just given him a new contract quite recently.
Well, I guess at that point, you would just make him only a right centre-back option.
Yeah, that's the thing. And again, with Chelsea and how that issue is, I mean, for me, I still think we should pay Rudiger, and I think that solves one of the issues centre half. I think we can probably all agree with that. I think we should just pay him. I think Christensen, I think he's going to go, if I'm honest with you. You've then got Chalobah, Thiago Silva, we know is going to stick around. But we signed a couple of these youngsters, 2 years ago or so, something like that. I want to see these guys play. I want to see these guys get opportunities. And I haven't really seen Malang Sarr get it. But, I mean, that's Chelsea's recruitment in the last probably 2 years or so. There was a lot of young centre-backs that were getting looked at, which is fine, but we're living in right now. In right now, we have got, even at the moment, we've got probably, 4 centre-back options at the moment that seriously could play. Malang Sarr, I think he comes in for a League Cup game or an FA Cup game, fine. But realistically, you've got Chalobah, Aspie, Christensen, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, 5. And other than that, you've got 5 options for 3 positions. If two of those go out, you're left with bare bones. And then Azpilicueta has potential to play right back as well. So I wouldn't want to recall someone from loan. I wouldn't. But if it made more sense for right now, for again the Chelsea team right now, then that's absolutely fine. It's nothing against Serginho Dest, who could be a really good football player. It's nothing against loads of other targets that we might go after. It's just realising what's best for Chelsea Football Club right now, because I don't think you're going to get a proper right back option that fits the bill, exactly what you need in January, with now, 2 weeks left to go, or just over 2 weeks left of the market to go.
Well, I mean, you could throw a lot of money at Brighton and tell Lamptey come home, but, you know, we're probably not going to do that just for our pride. Sorry?
I still think Reece James would be a really good right centre-back option, personally. That's a whole nother story for another different day, which then would allow you to play Lamptey as a right wing-back.
We're hopefully also recalling Livramento in 2023 with that buyback option that we have.
Exactly, yeah. That's the other thing as well. We've got that buyback option. We go, yeah, actually, we're going to take our own man back. Then this whole problem's over. Just keep Asby for another year and we're there.
You think so? And I do quickly, and I want to go to clutch with that before we talk about Ousmane Dembele, before we move on to Spurs, because my current solution is two problems I have. Number one with Dest, and the solution to what to do right now. With Dest is the whole idea, he can play on both sides. Sure, but haven't we just discussed how we have 5 left wing backs? So we don't really need anyone to play on both sides, because I don't like Alonso. But is Dest better than Alonso as a left wing back? No. If you think that, you have no idea what you're talking about, honestly. Dest, yes, he's played on the left for Barcelona. First of all, have you ever seen Barcelona in the last 2 years? Right? He's not better than Alonso as a left wing back. I don't rate Alonso, but Dest on his wrong side is not better than Alonso. In a system he's never played before, so don't lie to yourself in those weird ways. But for right now,
left wing back if enough money was thrown at us.
Yeah, there you go. But my solution for right now is, especially if we get Emerson, because he can actually play left back in the back four. That's what he's done at Lyon for the last 6 months. Because we've tried the back four 1.5 occasions now, because we definitely did it against Spurs, and it was a back three against Chesterfield, but it was also a little bit of a back four-ish, it was a weird mix. But if you change it, and then you can play Aspi as a normal right back, he's much better suited to that than right wing back. You can play a Chalobah, or if necessary, a Rudiger right back, if super necessary. But especially Chalobah, and then you only need 2 centre backs anyway. Rudiger, Thiago Silva, sorted, right? So that fixes that problem. And on the left, if you have Emerson, you can do that, because we only need a stopgap until Reece is back. Because once Reece is back, whoever we sign in January is off to the bench anyway.
Yeah.
So, but then again, the club obviously will know better. What is the likelihood of Aspi leaving in the summer? Because even in the summer, we will still have the same situation where, if we have Reece James, whoever we want to sign as a right back needs to be a backup anyway. And you can't sign someone that's crazy good if they know they're going to be backup. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, if you sign someone so good, like on the left side, Theo Hernandez, for example, he would probably back himself to just play over Chilwell. That's a different situation. But are you going to find a right back that's going to back himself to play over Reece James? Are you going to find that? How many of those exist in the world? Do you know what I mean? Not many. A lot. And those that do are either deluded or they play for English club rivals, if we're being totally honest with ourselves, right? So maybe the back four for now is the option, the only option, because Clutch, I mean, we asked you initially, weeks ago, what do you think of Dest? Obviously, as you're American, you said straight no. Even though you've said since you'd rather Dest than keep playing Pulisic at right wing back, which I also understand. But if I don't want Dest, and I want to buy a right wing back, who the hell do I sign?
I think it's a tough one. I'm not sure, because I know the Ajax right back is Moroccan. I'm not sure if he's currently at the AFCON. I'm not sure if he is or not. But I'm pretty sure he is also out of contract in the summer. I think he's not willing to sign another contract. So I think it is possible to get him at the moment. But I think the big problem is that Barcelona and Ajax are basically trying to work out a swap deal for Dest and Mazraoui. Not at
the AFCON, at least no, because also, I mean, Morocco's starting right back is Hakimi anyway. So,
I keep forgetting about that. But yeah, I mean, that ticks off one of my boxes. So if he's not an ACON and he's out of contract, which I'm pretty sure he is, I'm pretty sure he's out of contract in the summer. I think you could persuade Ajax to sell him. For how much, I don't know.
For reasonable money, I don't know.
I mean, for reasonable money, I have no idea. I don't know. It's just I see the guy in chat who's basically backing Dest, and it's like, yes, he's a decent dribbler, but at the same time, if you're asking for who do I want, Aspie's probably a better crosser. He's definitely a better defender. So, I mean, in Tuchel's system, that crosses off the boxes that Dest does not cross off. Sure, he's a little bit faster, but it doesn't matter if you can't defend. I mean, we want defenders first rather than putting out these players who can't defend to save their lives, but they're a little decent going forward. I've had enough with Alonso of that. If Alonso was great going forward, we would have no problem. But he can't defend, but he also doesn't play. He's not good going forward, and as of the last couple weeks. So, I mean, for me, Dest is just a no. The only, like I said on Twitter the other day, the only reason I'd want him is to get Pulisic out of the right wing back spot, because that's a place I don't want him either. I mean, I don't want Cho there either, but I mean, if you're asking me out of the people we have now for offense, I'm picking Cho, but it's one of those situations where I think if Trent Alexander-Arnold picked the United States over England, we would have never even heard of Dest, and I think that shows.
That's a very good point.
If Trent Alexander-Arnold, obviously. Obviously, Trent is a lot better than bloody Dest. I mean, I see the problem. Now, someone in the chat also said sign Traore. Now, the problem with Traore is even if Tuchel wanted him apparently in the summer, if we're looking at a back four, do not sign a player that is physically incapable of playing an actual right back position. So that takes a lot of players out. And in my opinion, that takes Dest out. As a right wing back, I think Dest is young enough to improve enough to be decent. I'm not saying to be good enough to be our starter, but is he going to be a reasonable backup? Yes, I do believe that. I do believe he could be that. But what's the point in that? Like, that's not what we need, because if we switch to a back four, we're screwed all the same again. So what does that help us? It helps us nothing, in my opinion. So that's why I don't want Traore. But if Tuchel wants Traore, fair enough. But if we sign Traore, we can say goodbye to playing back four next summer. Like, that's out the window then, right? Maybe it's the same with Dest, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, but I just don't know. Just pay Kunde's release clause and you fill centre back and right back / right wing back. Now, personally, I just do not agree that Kunde can play right wing back. I don't care what he has done in our system. I ain't playing Kunde right wing back. I'm sorry. I mean, hey, maybe Jester knows better than I do. I haven't seen Kunde that much. I mean, I've seen Sevilla play, but I've not seen him play right wing back, have I? So, for me, that's a no. But Traore can play in the attacking front. He doesn't have to play as winger. No, of course he can, but he's shit. Like, I don't want him to play in the front three. Like, sorry, we already can't score. I don't need to sign a player that's even worse attacking wise than all the players we already have. That just makes everything much worse. But because we've already been sitting here for 40 minutes, which is much longer than I wanted to, let's move swiftly onwards. I'm sure there will be some developments in terms of left backs, right backs, whatever. Let's just hope we get Emerson back ASAP. Do you know what I mean? Because it's pissing me off. But apparently, both Thomas Tuchel and Chelsea have an interest in Ousmane Dembele from Barcelona. Potentially the most injury-prone player since the great Iron Robin. Which is like...
He was good though, wasn't he?
He was good, to be fair, but only when he was fit. Do you know what I mean? And only a club like Bayern Munich in the league that season can afford to have one of their star players be that injury-prone. Do you know what I mean? I'm not sure we can afford that, especially when he's going to be out of contract, which is good because it means you can get him for free. But I don't even want to know what kind of wage demands that guy has. And will he have the brain capacity to accept that he's too injured to get big wages? I don't know. The problem is with Ousmane Dembele, if that guy can stay fit, he can genuinely be one of the best players in the world. The problem with that guy is the likelihood of him staying fit is quite slim. Someone said to me on Twitter, yeah, but every medical team is differently. He didn't have injury problems at Dortmund. He only had them since joining Barcelona. I'm like, fair enough. But that's pure speculation to think he might be less injured at Chelsea than he is at Barcelona. Yeah, it could happen, but there's no guarantee. And Braga, yes, I do think Traore. I mean, I'm not saying he's shit completely, but not as good as our players. Like, he has good attributes. He's quick, he's strong, sure. His dribbling is not awful, but he can't cross and he can't shoot. And those are the two problems we already have in our front three. So do I want another guy that has the same problems? Not really. Just the same problems, but even worse. But anyway, Dembele. I've recently seen a stat by Euro Expert. And Ousmane Dembele is, from all forwards in all of Europe, the most two-footed player that exists. He's probably the most two-footed player I've seen since, I don't know. I know Thierry Henry was two-footed, or is, considering it's not football anymore, but still. But can I remember him doing that many special things with his left foot? Just because I was too young and it wasn't really possible to watch the Premier League that much back in those days. But like, any two-footed player is great if he can just stay fit. But the one other problem I have with him, if there is one problem to Ousmane Dembele as a player when he is fit, it's also finishing. And again, it's almost the same problem. Do I want another player that can't finish to save his life? Well, Icecold Beverage couldn't have played on the wing for France, on the wing. Well, maybe then he is a right wing back option. I have been unaware. Jester, in that case, I do take it back if that is true. But still, do I want to sign Koundé to play 4 different positions? No. Because, he has a release clause, I get it, but how much cheaper than a release clause can we get him in the summer when you also know the Chelsea board? We're not going to just spend 17, 20, 30 million more if we can get him cheaper in the summer. But who knows how cheap we can get him. But, Ian, Ousmane Dembele. A hard pass for you. Maybe on the right kind of contract. I've seen people suggest, just give him a bonus type contract. Just tell him, if you play, say, more than 25 games a season, then you get big bonus at the end. But if you're injured all the time, we can't give you huge wages as a base wage. Which, if he accepts that, fair enough. But how likely is it that he will accept that? Do you know what I mean?
No one in their right mind signs a contract, not if you're a player like Ousmane Dembele. So you've got to commit to him or not. It's that simple. And for me, if the money is right, obviously, I don't know what he's on at the week at the moment, but if the money is right per week, I'd give it a go. I wouldn't give him a 5-year deal. That's ridiculous. If you could give a 2 or a 3-year deal, something like that, prove it. Because currently he's doing nothing at Barcelona. He's doing absolutely nothing. If you could give him some sort of a prove it deal, his agent might turn around and go, yeah, all right. But in terms of actual game time and minutes and stuff, no agent's going to sign off on that. No way. So I think he's a fantastic footballer. I think he's really talented. I think he's something that Chelsea actually need, which is just pure directness, get down the outside and whip a ball in, a little bit of creativity. But it's got to be for the right money, because the way that Chelsea play at the moment, we haven't actually got a proper left winger, someone who actually plays on the left-hand side, not an inside forward who's left-footed like Pulisic, a proper left winger. And we haven't really got a right winger. The first thing we've got is Ziyech, but we all know wants to cut inside all the time. So I would be for it. I just think that you might need to change a little bit too much to get the best out of him. Then I look at it and think, is it worth it? Probably not.
It's a tough one. I'm not quite sure I necessarily agree on that. Neither Pulisic or Callum are proper left wingers. Maybe we don't use in our system proper left wingers. That is a whole different discussion. But apparently his wages right now are 300k. Apparently he wants even more Barcelona and just stay. Right.
Yeah, bin off. Don't touch it.
But again, because his contract runs out this summer, right? So other than even PSG have called interest. So other than if he goes to maybe China, Saudi Arabia, potentially the MLS, will anyone pay him that much anymore?
No,
because I think everyone's too scared of his injuries. So I don't I see a good chance of him accepting a significantly lower offer once he's out of contract, because who's going to give him more with him being injured so much?
But how much more?
We can't forget Barcelona paid 140 million euros for the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Partly because he's great, partly because a lot of potential, but partly because Barcelona are the worst business-based football club maybe in history. Because how the amount of money they've spent on just Griezmann and Dembele, who are both, I'm not saying Griezmann is bad, but just didn't work at all for Barcelona. He would literally have to play what Messi played like. But you already had Messi, so why on earth did you ever sign Griezmann? It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of.
Yes.
And with Dembele, okay, maybe they got unlucky that he's so injury prone, sure. But because I want a winger. And there's nothing easier than signing are you going to find a better free agent winger than Dembele? Probably not. Because we're going to have to sign at least one, if not two centre-backs. We're going to have to sign a wing-back, potentially two if Aspie leaves. So I can maybe see the logic. And like Daily Smith has said here, yeah, give him 150k and then bonuses on pay if play. But like Ian has said, will he agree to that? It just depends on what other clubs offer him, I suppose. But Clutch, how do you see it? Because it's just a tough one for me. I mean, I know you said earlier it's another no from you, but is it more the injuries, or is it the wages, or is it the type of player he is? Obviously, there's been some dodgy racist stuff from him when they were on a preseason tour in like Japan, I think it was as well. So, you know, it certainly comes with baggage. Apparently, his discipline is poor, turns up to training late, stays up too long, doesn't eat and sleep right. But then again, he didn't have those problems under Tuchel at Dortmund. So that's why, personally, that part of the problem, I wouldn't worry that much for it. But do you know what I mean? But Clutch, how do you see it?
Well, I guess I'll start with, I don't think he had that problem under Dortmund because I don't think he thought he was the superstar that he is going to Barcelona. I mean, he signed for what, 130-some million? Mm-hmm. I guarantee you that destroyed every part of his ego and put him on his own playing field in terms of his own the way he sees himself.
100%.
I think he is a hard no in every sense of the word. I mean, I wouldn't even pay 100k a week for him. I mean, we already complain about Pulisic and Conte being injured all the time. Why I don't even care if we. The problem is Pulisic hasn't been muscle injured for like a year and a half now, but we still hold that over him. We still wait for that, and I think that's part of the reason why Tuchel doesn't play him in his position all the time. Even though I think he's kind of getting a little bit away from that. I think he's starting to trust his body a little bit more, but I do think that's a little bit why he didn't trust his body a little bit.
Conference today, he actually called Pulisic a player whose body is durable, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if he plays center back and keeper, he's played every position on the field, so we'll keep that in mind for.
Let's
vote for that.
Yet. He's not played DM yet.
Yeah, it's still a midfield. He's played center mid, so I'll give him that. But no, I think because if in the summer, I think it depends because I still back Cho, I still back Pulisic, and I still back Ziyech to a degree. I don't think Ziyech will be here though in the summer. I think he will leave. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think.
I hope we keep Ziyech over Werner. I'm telling you, man. If we get only rid of one, it better be Timo, not Ziyech.
I think Werner stays. If I'm being completely honest,
I think so.
There's something about. Even though I can't rate him in this league, it just seems like we're going down this path that Tuchel is like, Werner and Lukaku is my goal. That is where I want to be. I think that's his main starters. And that's what he wants. He wants Werner off the left and he wants Lukaku off the right. And then
that will never happen, by the way.
It'll never be good.
That's what he wants. Otherwise, why would he play against Chesterfield? If that's what he wants, he would have played
I think that's what he's trying to do. I think he's trying to get them to work and see if they can get a chemistry together. I don't think it'll work, but
I think he's going to try with Kai, not with Timo.
I probably like that.
Maybe. I don't like the idea of two left footers in the front. So for me, I don't like Kai in the two. I don't like it. I think Kai is a much better
honestly,
solo
that's
nine.
One of the most frustrating things about the last 1.5 years, and Kai Havertz in a way. The guy is so good, but somehow he's managed to make us think he can only play striker when it's not true. But he's not performed in any other position. Like, he was an attacking 8 or a 10 at Leverkusen. And now we sit here and think he can only play striker. It's so weird what's happened to him. Like, I hope, he's so good. I back him completely, but we need to find a way to get the best out of him. But, Clutch, anything else on Dembele before I give it back to Ian?
No, I think if you're looking at it and you're looking at, you would have to get rid of players. And I think if you're going to get rid of players, then you might as well go sign like a Diaz or who else we've been looking at? Rafinha. If you're looking at up and coming great players. That's if you get rid of Pulisic, if you get rid of Cho, or even Chiesa, even though I know Chiesa just got injured the other day, and we might not see the best out of him for a while. But I don't know. I mean, just for me, I think if you're asking me to pick another injury-prone player, I'm just gonna pass pretty much every time. Because if it's the same thing with Pulisic, because as much as I back Pulisic, I keep saying if he gets injured again, he needs to go. I still back Pulisic, but I can't back another injury-prone player.
There needs to come a point where if he gets injured again, it's fine because he's not been injured for a while now. Do you know what I mean? And he actually played a lot. So
if he stays healthy the rest of the season,
a point where everyone's allowed to be injured every now and again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think if he keeps healthy for this season and for a good part of next season, I think people start coming around to it. But I think there are those people who, no matter what he does, he will always be that injury-prone player. Even if he stays healthy for the next 3 seasons, somebody will still call him injury-prone. That's unfortunately going to be his moniker for the rest of his career. And hopefully his mentality doesn't let him down with that. But because the main thing right now is like what we've been saying is he's got to trust his body. And he looks slower because it looks like he doesn't trust his body to make those sprints that we know he does.
I think it's the Puma boots. I think they ruined him, personally.
I agree. I hate those stupid things.
But, if you rate Puma, you're a bit weird anyway. Like, they pick the worst kits and the worst boots. Like, why does anyone agree to get sponsored by them? I don't understand. But if you want to sponsor me, Puma, off you go. Wearing a Puma hat. But just happens because they've sponsored Ferrari. It's not my fault, right? Anyway, Ian, anything you would like to add on the whole Dembele debate? Obviously, Jester said here, Rafinha and Diaz are probably the best options. I mean, they might be. But, I mean, I feel like if you really tried, you could probably get Diaz in January. I can't even lie. But it's not going to happen, right? And in the summer, we're going to have, competitors in getting these players. But I don't know. Like I said, I get, because we have to sign so many players in the summer, probably, I get the whole idea of trying to sign a free agent if we can give him the right contract. But to bank on that he will agree on that, is ludicrous, in my opinion.
I would love to normalise signing players from the Premier League because it seems to have completely disappeared. I mean, we're talking about all these names from around the world, and we're lacking people in the Premier League. We're lacking names in the Premier League, people that have already done it before. And I think one of the best signings that's been for probably a little while actually now is Diego Jota at Liverpool. I think he was a fantastic buy for them. And I'd love to see Rafinha get a big money move to us, hopefully. But also there's a couple of other names as well that you could just really normalise. We signed Gary Cahill in 2011 or 2012. 2012, was it? I think 2012.
January 2012, yeah.
Yeah, January 2012. We signed Gary Cahill, and we needed him to be a number 2 centre back next to John Terry. Did it, went on to win the Champions League. Like that's the big thing. And it's a very good point about Premier League players that are just too expensive. They're the ones that are highly spoken about. They're the ones that are really, really highly spoken about. Just a name off the top of my head, but someone like Harvey Barnes, right, at Leicester. I'm not saying he's going to be the absolute definite answer. I don't know. I would need to think more about it. But if he was someone that you genuinely believed makes Chelsea better, it doesn't matter who he plays for. It doesn't matter how much he's going to cost. It doesn't matter how much, how many shirts he's going to sell. It's just about purely going after the best players for the job. Now, Harvey Barnes is just a name. It could be absolutely anyone. Bowen there, another person. It could be someone interesting. I'm not saying it's going to be one of these players, but what I don't want to happen is constantly buying players abroad, them not working out, and then we just go in this vicious cycle of going round and round and round, because it seems to be, as much as I love Werner, he's not going to work out. Ziyech hasn't really worked out. Pulisic, for the money that we paid for him, to be honest, he hasn't really worked out. It's a bit of an issue, because when you've got such good players in the Premier League, 1 or 2 or 3 get really highly spoken about. But if you can build a team, it doesn't always have to be the most flashy player in the world. You can just go and get the odd little acquisition here and there. Might be a bread and butter player, but it's still the one that's just going to go and do the job and make the team better. And when it comes to Ousmane Dembele, are you going after him because of his name, or are you going after him because he actually fits the bill? He might be available for free. That's, regardless of the situation. But go for the player that purely makes Chelsea better. And it doesn't always have to be a superstar. I mean, Manchester United signed Paul Pogba to improve their midfield, and I would argue it's been worse ever since. So, there's so many different ways you can think about it. But I would avoid Ousmane Dembele like the absolute plague.
Fair dues. I mean, the situation obviously is that Thomas Tuchel obviously coached him at Dortmund. Still to this day says he's the most talented player he's ever seen. And to some extent, like, if Tuchel wants him, fair enough. But I'm like, Tuchel also played a full strength team against Chesterfield, which is unnecessary. So, as much as I love him, when it comes to like making, like, deciding things against, like, Premier League, Champions League things, but I'm like, but what if he's so pure? What if he's such a purist that he just looks at the talent and it just is too injured again? Like, do you know what I mean? If Dembele wasn't injured, all over it, but he is all the time. Is the problem? Do you know what I mean?
I think sometimes Tuchel gets stuck in his 2016 Dortmund days. I think that's a problem that he's been having. I mean, when he first came here, like, he still believed that Pulisic was a right-sided attacker, even though we know that he's a left-sided attacker. And it wasn't until Lampard actually changed him to the left side that we actually seen the best out of Pulisic across the board. Like, Pulisic was not that great at Dortmund. I don't know who says I don't know why anybody thought he was. He was okay at best. He became a lot better when he came here and switched to the other side. He never got a chance on the other side because who was it that always played on the left for
Dortmund?
Yeah, it was
Marco Reus, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Marco Reus. It was Marco Reus pretty much always played that left wing spot for probably 5 years before he moved to the center. So, I mean, either that or...
It could be. I cannot for the life of me remember who was Dortmund's left winger before. But
it was Marco Reus who wasn't injured. That was the thing. It was just with injury side, but that I can't remember.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying you're, like I said, I'm not saying you're wrong, Clutch. I see what you're saying with the whole Dortmund thing, but then again, when was actually the last time that Tuchel played Pulisic on the right? Like, that's been a few months ago at this point. Like, when was the last time he played that? Like, not right wing back, but that is as a stopgap option because we have injuries, right? But as in genuinely on the right of a three, it's a while ago since he's last played that. So, but I see what you're saying. But I don't know about Dembele. Let's move on because we've spoken about this for a bloody hour, which I never intended to do at all. Let's get talking about Tottenham because we beat them 2-0 last week, which was fantastic news. We beat them in a system which was like this offensively and then a back three defensively. Well, I'll ask you boys now whether you think we should play the same system, again or not. But yeah, we should basically be through to the final already, but we're not. I also don't know, will Liverpool and Arsenal ever play the first leg again? Will that just be decided on one leg now?
No, that game, they've reversed the fixture round. So Arsenal were meant to be at home first and away second. Now put the first leg is at Anfield and the second leg is at the Emirates. Okay.
Well, I mean, to be honest, Liverpool should be suspended from the competition anyway because
I agree.
Look into the probabilities of 13 false tests. The likelihood of that is so minuscule, it's probably more likely that the bloody sun explodes tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? The only explanation that could be, and that genuinely could be the case, is obviously these tests come in like boxes. If it was just a faulty, like a whole set of tests, if it just came in a box and all of them were just had some sort of production issue, hey, that happens. Fair enough. But
if the sun explodes tomorrow, we're going to have words. So if the sun explodes tomorrow, we're going to have words.
Well, if the sun explodes tomorrow, we ain't having a lot of words anymore, bro. But,
it'll be the last words, but we'll have them.
Huh?
I said it'll be the last words, but we'll have them.
Well, once we've seen it explode already, we're not talking anymore, are we?
It's like 8 hours, didn't it? Or something stupid like that. I swear it takes a couple of hours. If you saw the sun explode, it would take a couple of hours for it to go, oh shit, yeah, the sun exploded.
I mean, yeah,
light.
I presume because we would, even though we wouldn't feel, I guess it would take a while, but we would only see it. Like by the time we see it, it would already hit us because before that, we wouldn't even see it yet that it exploded.
Well, they would see it in space.
What?
They would see it, or satellites would be closer than we are, so they would see it before we did.
Yeah, sometimes when I don't know exactly what you're talking about, it's more difficult to hear what you're saying with the lag.
Don't worry.
All good, all good. But I stick with you, Ian, for the time being, anyway. Would you like to see us play the same system we played last week against Spurs? This mix of a 4-2-2, if you want to call it that. Obviously, Tuchel called it a 4-4-2. Fair enough, call it whatever you want. And obviously, the 3-back in defensive situations.
I would like to say that this formation last week worked because Spurs were shit.
Yeah.
So I although I liked the idea and I thought at certain times it went really well, I would just take it all with a pinch of salt and say that it's not guaranteed to work constantly. It might have just worked because Spurs were that bad. So I would line up as we normally would with what we know. If you can transition into this formation at times, then great. But I would still back that we start in a. It might be that. Might be a 3-5-2, but it just depends.
I hate the 5-2.
I actually thought Matt played quite well in midfield, but that's a.
He did, but Conte just ruined that formation for me. I don't want to see it.
Yeah, that's fair.
I see what you're saying. I'll get back to you in a second here because it's an interesting debate because I do see your logic in it. Obviously, the argument you could make is, well, it worked against Spurs last week. Might as well try it again against Spurs. Maybe not different opponents, but against Spurs. Do you know what I mean? So I see that argument of it. I guess that part of it is also who is available tomorrow because if Thiago Silva's back, maybe we just need to play this. But if he's not, maybe we need to look at the other one. That's kind of how I see it, Clutch.
I think as long as Tuchel has 3 center backs that he can play back there, which he will, which would be Christensen, Aspie, and Rudiger, I think he'll play the back 3.
Yeah, but if he includes Aspie, he had that last week against Spurs as well.
Well, yeah, but I think he's going to want to be more defensive. I think he wants to just see out the tie. I mean, Son's not going to be available, so it's not really going to be that much of a problem. But I think his whole thing will probably be like just seeing it out, probably play on the counter.
I mean, I don't disagree with you. Let me just put up something and I'll see both of your opinion. But I'd had Silva or Christensen. I put Silva in for now. I mean, I guess if we have Silva available, we could play Christensen here and Aspie wingback. But if you then do this, or Callum or Pulley or whatever, then this could just automatically, we can play this shape, and we can also just switch to the 4 if we feel it works in the game.
100%.
And we don't need to actually play any different players.
100%.
I agree. I don't think we'll see Ziyech there because, I mean...
I think we bloody should, mate.
I do too. I want to see Ziyech there more, but I think last game against Chesterfield, I don't know why it happened, but you had Pulisic there in the center, and then Ziyech was where he is now. But it looked like 1, Pulisic was lost in the sauce, and 2, Ziyech didn't want to track back. That's what it looked like. I didn't see Ziyech tracking back nearly as much as he did against the Spurs. Maybe that was his lack of respect for Chesterfield, but I think he can play.
He didn't have to track back either.
No, but you still want that player to do that. So I think that's partly why he didn't do it, or why they switched, is because Ziyech was unwilling to track back, and Pulisic didn't have a clue what he was doing in a center mid role.
I think it was more down to Pulisic not getting on the ball at all, and Ziyech obviously is more used to playing as an 8 as well every now and again, so he was probably more comfortable. And when they realized Pulisic is struggling here, let's put him out wide where he at least played that before. That's how I saw it. But maybe it is a fair shot. Do I think it will be Ziyech? No, I'm just saying it might have been. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, because Christensen is fit, and I personally, unless he doesn't fulfill the requirements today, but Thiago Silva was already negative 3 days ago, had no symptoms according to his wife, so the likelihood of him being fully fine to train today after the press conference in which Tuchel still wasn't sure is very, very high. So if we did predicted 11, I'm telling you it's going to be this. I guarantee it.
That would be what I would probably want. I want that, but I think it'll end up being Pulisic on the right wing back.
I don't know. I really don't know. Clutch. Would you prefer to see it like I had it a minute ago? Well, it's a back three that can comfortably shift if that still works against Spurs. Or would you, if we can play these players, including Thiago Silva, would you then go with this, considering we're 2-0 up and it's away now?
I'd probably want to go with this. I mean, we got Man City on the weekend, so kind of get back into this familiar formation. Because we're going to play this against them. We're not going to go into a back four against City. That's just not going to happen. So it'll probably play... I guarantee you Pep will be more shocked than any of us if that happens.
Which is exactly why maybe we should do it.
I mean, that's exactly what Conte got. He got hit with that last week, and he was totally stunned for about 80 minutes in that game. Well, actually 45, because it did make a difference when he brought Dembele on.
It did.
Dembele.
Ian, what about you? This one or the one I had up before, to which you agreed initially, to be fair?
I would probably play the Ziyech one if it's me, just because again you can transition into it if need be. Yeah, but again, also as well you've got to think about the big picture. A massive game against City coming up on the weekend, and we actually don't need to score a goal. If we keep a clean sheet, we're through. So then you just go with what you know and just play defensive and back that you can keep Harry Kane from scoring twice.
That might also be why we put Ziyech out there, because Ziyech ain't starting over the weekend.
No. He won't. Well, Ziyech has a great record against City, to be fair, but it's a tough one for me, because if I went on, we play City. If I go on that basis, especially because we play City early kickoff on Saturday, so no rest essentially after tomorrow. The one guy that probably shouldn't play is Aspie. So then you could obviously argue for this, but the problem is the whole, like, with exactly the logic that you just brought. Should have left there. You just brought there, Ian, because we don't need to score. Maybe even I would back this, because I think defensively it's definitely more solid this way than having Ziyech. And if we don't need to score, why do it? And then if they get one, we can still do that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? The question is, if we play this back five, I'm pretty confident we're going to play the 2 and the 3 up top rather than the 3 midfield and 2 up top. But the next question is obviously whether N'Golo Kante is fit. And the question is, even if N'Golo Kante is fit, should he play? I would argue no. Just make sure he's fine for City. Because against City, there's no chance we win without Kante. So we need Kante for City. So don't even risk it tomorrow, is my opinion. So then it has to be these two. Does it not, Clutch?
I fully agree. I don't think you risk Conte at all. I don't even think you give him like 20 minutes at the end of the game. I
wouldn't even give him that. He's only been out for a week.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't give him that at all. I think Conte is kind of one of the players that he can be out like 1 or 2 weeks and then he can come right back in and be fine. I think that's just the kind of player he is. So I'd 100% save him for City.
Fair. Ian, for you as well, Kovacic and Jorginho on that logic?
Yeah, I think I would bring Kante if it needs to be. If they did score a goal, then you need to go a bit more defensive. I'd bring him on and play as like a 3 in midfield, drop one of their forwards. But yeah, I wouldn't be starting Kante tomorrow now.
No, there you go. Ice Cold Beverage said it here. I'd look at Seoul because he's looked great in the last 2 games. Chesterfield, it was Chesterfield, so let's not put too much value on how anyone played against them, including Lewis Hall. But against Spurs last week, he was brilliant. He was very, very good. But would I want to start him over Kovacic and Jorginho if they're both fit? No. But then Kovacic completely unnecessarily played 45 minutes against fucking Chesterfield. So maybe we shouldn't play Kovacic. I don't know. But he will. So it will be those two, if we're being honest. But for me, even it's Spurs. Then they're really not do you know what I mean? Even if we need to go to a midfield 3, I'd even be happy to bring Saul on over Kante and just make sure Kante is fine for the weekend. But if Kovacic and Jorginho are fine, it should be those two over Saul, even if he has had 2 good games. Because, 2 good games, or 3 if you include the one before that, because he was also good in that. It doesn't quite outweigh the countless amounts of good games that Kovacic and Jorginho have had. That's that perspective from me. And we will get to the Lukaku discussion at the very end, because obviously he might be that one. But someone in the chat said, Ziyech is becoming important. He will start. Maybe he will. But will he start here? Or will he not start at all? Because I don't think he will start right wing back. Maybe I would do it just to have a bit of fun. But we're talking to it. I'm very, very, very doubtful. Ian, is Ziyech in the front three for you, or also a no?
Big no for me. I think that Mason Mount not playing in the Chesterfield game at all, where this time last year he played in the Luton game, was it? Do we have Luton? Captain Chelsea.
Next round it was fourth round.
Next round, yeah. So I think that Mount not playing basically cements the fact that he's going to play
for sure
in both of these next two games because they're massively important. So yeah, I would say that Mount probably plays, and that would mean that Ziyech doesn't play. Who you want to put the other side is a different question, but I think it's Mount or Ziyech, and I can't see any reason why Ziyech would play when Mount's fully fit.
I mean, I've seen something on Twitter the other day where someone was talking about the fact that Mason Mount is much better on the left, and I, by the way, agree with this completely. And the only reason he had to start playing on the right was because Lukaku was either not working and not playing then because he was injured. So we needed to give somebody else in the box to arrive and be good at shooting. And Mount is better at that on the right than on the left because then he receives the ball from the left, can shoot with his right against goal. A bit like his goal against West Ham, obviously from Ziyech's ball. But when we have Lukaku, it's much better to play Mount over here, which I, by the way, agree with. And then you could play Ziyech. Because the problem is, I mean, Callum was poor last game, I thought. Even though he scored a goal, I didn't think it was very good, other than the goal. Also, apparently, he was feeling his Achilles a bit when he came off, but also in a different post-match interview, Tuchel spoke about Ruben feeling his Achilles, so I'm not sure who was feeling his Achilles now, or whether both were. I have no idea. And then I would say on the back of the Liverpool game, Pulisic has to be this guy again. But then neither Pulisic or Callum started against Spurs, and then Pulisic played in the number 8 role in midfield against Chesterfield, and then right wing back, and was poor in both. So on the back of Liverpool, I would have said, now give Pully the chance to play that again. And I would probably still stick with it. But it's again going to be one where I'm like, whether it's Joe or Pulisic, does it really matter? No. Do I really care? No. Personally, that's how I see it. I mean, Clutch, obviously I know you're going to prefer Pully, but what's your explanation? I'll go back to you in a second, Ian, for the left side. But obviously, first your reaction to Mount, probably on the right, obviously, and then the left side.
I do prefer Pulisic to get a run over there, and it'll probably make sense to do that considering I don't think he's going to start against City. Originally today when I started thinking about a lineup, I thought we'd put Mount in that 10 and then put Lukaku as the right-handed attacker and then probably Werner as the left-handed attacker. But we might actually try Mount behind, Havertz on the left, Lukaku on the right. As like a front two with Mount just in behind.
And then a 5 in midfield. Now we're talking.
Say that again, mate.
Me?
5 in midfield.
No, Ian, I couldn't hear what he said.
Oh.
5 in midfield with Mount playing in behind the 2 strikers.
Yeah.
Yes, Lars.
You know, for Mount, I agree, but for the front 2, I disagree. That's my problem.
If you're asking me who I want to play, the way you had it with Mount, Pulisic, and then Lukaku, that's what I would want. But if you're asking me to predict, my prediction would be this with Mount in behind, with Lukaku off the left, or Lukaku off the right, Havertz off the left. But if you're asking me what I want, it's Pulisic, Lukaku, Mount.
Unfortunately, I fear that this could be exactly what we're going to do. But if Alonso and Aspie are your wing-backs, you cannot play a front 2. It's impossible because you have no width. Like if you play a Pulisic or a Callum or maybe even a Ziyech here, you can do this whole kerfuffle here. But if you don't have a proper wing back on either side, essentially, I think you need 2 at least kind of wingers on each side. I think you need it. Do you know what I mean, Ian?
For me, personally, I go back to the same point. We don't need to score. If you think about getting it defensively right, you could potentially be Mount playing behind or whatever, helping out in the midfield areas. I think that's a big bonus for us. But another thing to consider is the counter-attack. And I don't think there's anyone on the pitch that's probably going to be as quick as Callum Hudson-Odoi. And if that's what you want to do, you want to have Werner potentially there, whatever. But if you're allowing Tottenham to have the ball and to keep possession, all you've got to do is go forward once on the counter-attack and bury it, and the game is over.
That might be true, but mate, it's Spurs and it's Conte. We could literally put the ball into their we could literally glue the ball onto their boots, and they would still try to give the ball back to us. They don't want to have possession.
Mm. But if
So,
they lose,
so
they do.
I'm not. We will. I'm very confident we will be the dominant side again. No matter,
we will.
Even if we tried not to be, we will be.
We will. We don't have to go forward. We can just keep the ball and be fine. We can do.
I see the logic, but if you're honest with yourself, you see
better
Tuchel doing that.
Footballers, if you get a technical football on the pitch, they're going to keep the ball better, which will probably be Pulisic over Werner or Hudson-Odoi. You're going to be all right if you can keep the ball. Because let's be honest, Werner's going to be a tap it and whack it and run kind of approach, really. If he's going to come in, it's going to be long kind of through balls or over the top, and it's not necessarily going to work out as well. But I mean, we are going to dominate the ball. We are going to have possession of it in large chunks, but there has to be a point in the game where Spurs come out and play, because otherwise they're going out. So all you've got to do is give yourself a fighting chance to go on counter-attack and bang one. And I think it could potentially be with Callum Hudson-Odoi starting and then Werner probably coming off the bench, I would say. But I think having Mount in the midfield will absolutely crucify Spurs, and I don't think they'll get the ball off us.
I think if we play counter, then there's no chance Werner doesn't start.
I agree.
Werner is the counter, is Tuchel's counter man.
It's just a case of how long the Spurs going to take until they come out and actually play against us.
That is true. I mean, without Son, they're not going to pose much of a threat going forward, so you're going to have to ask Harry Kane to...
If they back themselves to score twice in the second half, then the first half they're just going to be defensive as fuck, and Werner's ace is going to be useless.
I think that would be very silly to back yourself in the second half. I think if they're going to do it, they have to come...
This is Conte we're talking about here, isn't it?
We're also talking about Tuchel here. So while I don't even necessarily disagree with Ian's plan, as much as I don't want to look at it because it's boring, but for getting through, it's not a bad plan. But do I see Tuchel doing that? No chance. Tuchel will go to this game, get a goal or two as early as he can, put them to bed, off we go. Like that, there's no chance in my head that Tuchel goes into this game saying just keep a clean sheet and then doesn't keep the ball. We don't need to score. It doesn't matter. Guarantee he will try to play as like we always do. Try to get a goal. Once we get 2 goals, different situation. We have 5 subs. Maybe we'll take like Silva off and Aspie off and I don't know who else off. But we'll just take players off, 2-0 up, we're done, right? But I just do not see us going there to keep the ball and not try to score. Again, not saying like this is obviously Ian's plan. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. But if we did a predicted thing, lineup and I like game plan, to me, there's no way Tuchel does that.
I think the big thing is in this formation with tomorrow, it's the adaptability of it. I think that's the big part of it. And I think if you play Mount, he can adapt and play a central midfield role if needs be. If you play Pulisic, he can probably adapt and play in a central midfield role or as a full, depending on who you want to bring on. Same thing with Ziyech, he can play as a wing back, as we kind of saw the other day. Or you can play him as a kind of left out or right-hand side of a midfield. I think the adaptability of it is absolutely crucial. And I think again, it's the adaptability of it because the situation in this game tomorrow could change in a heartbeat. Because if Spurs go and nick a goal early doors, our whole game plan changes. If we go and score a goal early doors, the whole thing changes. If no one scores for a long period of time, then who knows what's going to happen. But I think you need the players on the pitch who have the adaptability of, ability to adapt. And that would be Aspie, that would be Pulisic, that would be Mount, could arguably be Ziyech. We didn't talk about it, but we all assumed that Thiago Silva starts. May he not start and Aspie be the right centre-back because he can adapt and play a different position? That's another thing to consider. I think there's a load of options. And I think if Chelsea want to go and win this game, you've got to be able to adapt to all situations and whatever Spurs throw at you. I think as long as you've got those players on the pitch, you're going to be fine.
Fair. Again, not saying you're wrong. The problem is you have way more than 11 players here, so then what? If we play this formation, I still don't think we will if we have Aspie arriving, right? I just don't see it.
No, I agree. I don't see it either. I think it might change into it later on in the game, but...
Yeah. if we're
yeah.
if we've gotten another goal by that point and we're maybe 1-0 up in the second leg, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But at 0-0 in the second leg, I don't see it. And then if Werner starts, I'm killing myself. And the only question is, should this be Lukaku or should this be Havertz? Because apparently we paid, I'm going to go to my little funny rant again. Apparently we paid 100 million for Adoni to score one scrappy goal against Chesterfield and miss all of his other chances. So that's fantastic. Ian, obviously, because you're lagging a little bit, I don't want to give you the whole story or your whole side point of the discussion, but what's your thoughts on Lukaku these days? And will the guy actually ever start playing well for us, or are we just like getting ourselves to the sun and getting rid?
Lukaku starts. I'll keep it short and sweet.
Oh yeah, he starts. But I'm saying, well, like, what do you think about the whole situation and what will happen? Will he actually start performing, not just playing?
Well, you're not going to sell him, so you start with him regardless. You're paying him a lot of money. If he wants it, let him show it. Because I personally think we're out of the league already. Mm-hmm. I hate to be that pessimist, but I think we're out of the league already. I think we've got a great chance to go into a final when we go and hopefully win tomorrow. Might not even need to win and still make the final. But for me, Lukaku starts as many games as possible, gets the form out, gets this, nonsense behind him. And we all need to move on and move forward. And if we get a centre forward scoring goals regularly, no one's talking about it anymore. But Lukaku simply, he has got to work. He has got to work, and he's just got to put a shift in.
It is true. Well, you were obviously at the Chesterfield game. What did you make of Lukaku at the game?
I thought he moved really well. Obviously, the first half, and again, he's against non-league players. I thought he moved really well. He did miss chances. Yeah, I can understand why, but he got chances. He got the opportunity to bury a few.
But we had that with Werner already. We didn't have to pay 100 million for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. But I mean, you can. I thought there was a real statement of intent there. I think it was Ziyech took the corner that Lukaku then ran onto, and he caught it actually reasonably well. Just didn't obviously score. But that's something that's come off the training ground. That's a commitment there towards Lukaku. You don't try that kind of thing. You don't work on that kind of thing unless you have a serious intent to play it. So I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that again. I think the team really wants to get behind Lukaku, and I think he's apologised and obviously senior players were consulted and everything like that. In terms of the Chesterfield game alone, I think that he didn't do himself any more issues by putting in a bit of a decent shift, finding himself in decent areas, scoring a goal in 45 minutes of football. That's not exactly bad, Chesterfield are still top of the conference, so although they're not Premier League quality, they still know what they're doing footballing wise to be able to keep any sort of shot at bay. Just because we are miles ahead of them in terms of table doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad side.
No, they're not bad. I agree. I mean, they are bad, but not that bad, if that makes sense. But he had a couple of chances. I'm like, bro, you're 100 million. You got to score that, especially after giving interviews like that. Maybe you should work on your finishing more than giving interviews. But like, I see what you're saying, and yeah, he moved around well, sure. But against Spurs, did he move? Against Spurs, I disagree with what you said, where it's like the players want to back it. I mean, I guess I get the logic of the corner, fair. But against Spurs, it looked like no one wanted to bloody pass to it. I mean, in the first half, how many touches did he have? Like a minuscule amount of touches, which was weird, considering we were dominating them left, right, and centre, but just Lukaku on none of it. Do I think he will start tomorrow? Yes. Do I want him to start?
Different question.
I don't know. Because, I mean, see, when we was doing all the streams about when this all happened, and I've said this in the last stream already, I was like, okay, I back what Tuchel does. If he thinks we're sorted, we're sorted. But I'm not pleased. But at the time I said I will need to see what happens in me, in my head, in my heart, if you want to be a bit cringy, when I actually see him play. And then I saw him play against Spurs and Chesterfield, and he triggers me. It just triggers me. I'm like, I don't want to have to see you if you're not scoring. And one scrappy goal that any sort of good goalkeeper saves, by the way, the one against Chesterfield, like, how is that ever going in? Is not enough. Like, sure, if he bags his goals left, right, and centre, but he hasn't done that yet. He was fantastic against Villa, but then, unfortunately, a certain interview had to come out and that ruined everything again. I don't know. But do I want Havertz instead of him? I mean, to be honest, because we're playing Spurs and we're 2-0 up from the first leg, would I care? Be fine with Havertz, if I'm being perfectly honest. But I don't bloody know. Clutch. But I'll go back to you with that very question at the very end, Ian. And Clutch, I'll obviously talk about the game tomorrow, but also, when will Lukaku start firing? Like, will we get to a point where we're like, yeah, we have our £100 million striker now? Will we get to that point, or will he not be bothered enough? Because he was more bothered giving winky faces into the camera when he scored a tap-in against Chesterfield than trying hard. So,
see, I don't know, because I mean, before he got injured, we had this problem with him where he wasn't firing either. So, and then when he started to get a little bit of a rhythm, he started to play well. He got a couple goals, and then his interview came out, and now we're back to that square one that we were at before. So I don't know. I don't exactly know how to get the best out of him right now, or how he gets the best out of himself. It was all game. I just looked at all game. So whatever they played against all game. But I don't know. I mean, do I think he's... I was watching Lewis's stream, and somebody said Lukaku starts or plays a lot because he complained about not playing a lot, so now we're going to play him a lot.
No.
So I don't think he should start every game, but I do think we have to get him to games like this to kind of get him firing, because I do think the title race is over, but I think if there's any chance to catch up, we have to beat City this weekend and hope that puts them on a spiral. Will it? Probably not, but that's kind of the hope that we're going to have here. That if we beat them, it puts them into a bad run of form. Am I still mad at Lukaku? Do I think he had a bad game? Yes, I think he had a bad game against Chesterfield. I mean, that's a non-league opposition that he should be dominating, and he didn't dominate yet. He had a couple shots that went off target that he should be burying, and then he had one that was a little bit more difficult. But, I mean, I back him to play tomorrow, and I don't know when he'll get firing. I think you got to find that right combination of players. I don't know who that is at the moment. I mean, I've had my personal opinion of who I think works the best with him if we're playing in a front three. But it's hard. It's hard because I think that interview set us back a couple weeks with his own mentality and how he's trying to go about it. Maybe he's trying too hard and he's making mistakes that he wouldn't make if he's just happy and carefree and playing the game that comes naturally to him. Maybe he isn't bothered. I don't know exactly what's going on.
I don't know what's going on either, bro. I don't know what's going on either. And I see what people say. Someone said, Laurenz, I love your content, but please stop the slander. And I get it. And I don't want to be sat here slagging off Lukaku every bloody time I talk about him. But and especially people defending him, like you just did there. No offense to you, bro. Not like to the guy in the chat. What was your name? What was it? Sean. No offense to you, but people defending him triggers me even more against him, because I'm like, no. If you have the audacity to give interviews, you better take every chance you ever see. And don't just miss. And the header he missed against Spurs, by the way, was a shocking miss for a £100 million striker. Like, don't care what anyone says. If Tammy missed much more difficult headers against Spurs under Lampard, and the entirety of Chelsea football Twitter was slandering him how shit he's in the air. And that was way more difficult than Lukaku's miss against Spurs. No one has said a word. Which is just, sure, at the time we drew 0-0 against Spurs, so we dropped points up because Tammy didn't score. Fair enough. And we beat Spurs anyway, regardless of Lukaku's missed header. Sure. But still, like, come on. We can't, like, I don't understand how people are being equally nice or some even nicer to Lukaku than they were before his interview. I don't understand. Like, I'm not saying I hate him now and don't want him to do well, but I need to see him doing well. Not just, like, there comes a point where there's, he's gotten rid of the sympathy. So now I'm just purely objective, and in my objective opinion, you can say it's not objective, it's more subjective because I'm annoyed at him, fair enough. But what I try to be objective as, I see him not doing well enough for a guy we signed for £100 million. That's what I see. But Ian, do you see him like playing like £100 million striker anytime soon? Or do you feel
the way he's going to play like £100 million striker is if he plays?
Oh, yeah,
get
for sure.
Game time. Whether you want to do it or not, get him game time. It's the same thing as Kai Havertz. The only way you're going to get him to, you're going to look at him and think, yeah, you're worth £72 million is if he plays and he gets better. I mean, for me, I think that you need to back a front three and stick with it. That's the big thing for me. You might bring people off the bench and whatever, that's fine, but you've got to get the chemistry going between the front three. And I think Lukaku is essential to that. It's not a case of who's going to put balls into him. Not let's change the game plan to make it all him suit and make it suit him more, but he has to play. He has to play. And as much as for me, I'm not going to defend him. I'm not going to slander him either. I'm just going to say, all right, put your money where your mouth is. Are you sorry? Do you genuinely care? Go and prove it to us. That's
what I'm saying. I don't think he did against Spurs and Chesterfield. That's why I'm annoyed.
But the only way he's going to do it is if he continues to play games.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Again, do we need him to come up, massively tomorrow and bang in 20 goals for us to save us in this time? No, we don't. We just need him to do his job, and that job will be given to him by Tuchel. It might be hold the ball up, kill time. It might be. It might be a case of go and get the one that kills the game off. It really depends. But, just let him do his job. And if he wants to do his job and he wants to play for Chelsea Football Club, like he says he does, he'll put in a shift. He might not score goals all the time, but he will do his job. I'm not going to judge him on 1 year's worth of football. I'm not going to judge him on 1 season's worth of football because it's a £100 million player we're talking about here. If we all turn around at the end of the season and go, oh, he's crap. He's absolutely crap. People are just going to come in and we're going to lose money off of him instantly. So let's just, let's move on from it. I get that it can be annoying and, he's slandered our football club and he's done this and he's done that. He's given unpopular interviews and stuff. But just let him do the talking with his play, with his energy, with his attitude, with his actual abilities, with his goal scoring, with his defensive work, whatever it wants to be. Just let him prove his worth that way, and then we can all just crack on. And if he does that, we've got £100 million payout, and we can all move forward.
I mean, Becky, I've seen that. I've not actually seen that opinion. I've just had Clutch tell me this. We should exchange Lukaku with João Felix. To me personally, Becky, no offense, is one of the craziest and dumbest opinions I've ever heard.
Yep.
João Felix basically ruined himself by going to Atletico Madrid. He's not even as good as he was at Benfica anymore, essentially. I don't want another problem player. Sorry, who would, by the way, cost us millions upon millions upon millions of pounds. And Lukaku doesn't want to go to Atletico anyway. And they could never in their life afford his wages anyway. So that's never happening. Anyway, I do agree, Ian, but it's something we also have to say, if he, say in the next 3 games, still doesn't play well, then there also has to come a point where you're like, well, any other player, if they play 5 games in a row not well, then they're benched. That needs to go for him as well.
Yeah, for me, you have to just keep on going with him. You have to keep going. You have to give him the benefit of the doubt. If CH doesn't work out and it's 5 games and he's been awful and whatever, he ain't playing, but he ain't cost us £100 million. And if we lose money on him, we're going to lose probably half. He's still going to be worth probably 20 mil, 15, 20 mil, an absolute minimum. Lukaku, if we get that wrong, he's going to be worth 40 million. That's instantly losing well over half of his actual value. You've made a commitment to Lukaku, as you've made one to Havertz, as you made one to Kepa before.
Well, we know Kepa's
now not worth 72 mil. Kai Havertz, I think we all know is going to be worth 72 mil regardless. But you just
but what I'm saying is we're not playing Kai every game either, though.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think he's one of the people you do actually get more game time as well. But the difference between Kai and with Lukaku is Kai was signed with potential. Lukaku is the finished product. So make the most out of it. Because we know, I was talking before, I can't remember whose stream it was on. It might have even been my own, actually. But I'm saying that You can sell Kai Havertz on for £100 million without even trying. You can sell him for that amount of money without even trying. Lukaku is only going to lose value because this is the absolute peak of his career. Make the most out of it, commit to it. Even if Kai Havertz doesn't play again for Chelsea, you know you're going to get your 75 million back. That is not going to be the case with Lukaku.
I know, I completely agree, but we also need to look at our season. If he keeps playing badly, and we would be better with someone different, then I'm not playing him for the sake of not losing money. Because if he plays badly, he will his value will drop all the same as if he's not playing. But again, though, I don't disagree that he has to keep playing and hopefully play better. And Becky, yes, we're aware that Ian's internet, it's not the microphone, it's his internet that's unfortunately struggling today. But we're nearly at the end of this stream anyway, so it's all good. I mean, you said there we should play Kai. I would like to see this whole trying Kai behind Lukaku again, not just next to him. I would like it, but not when Aspie's the wing back, because I'm not letting Kai do this thing by himself. He can't do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want him on the left, personally, because I'm not a fan of left-footed players in this position. It makes no sense to me because you take any sort of goal threat away from them in my head. Even though, obviously in the last game it was Kai here against Spurs and he did actually score, I guess. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't really know. Clutch, anything you would like to add on this Lukaku discussion, Kai discussion, or shall we move on to a couple of score predictions before we finish it off here?
I completely agree. I think Kai's problem, though, is we don't know what position to play him in. I mean, we've played Kai in that, like, behind the striker role so much, and we know it doesn't work. It's just his position is best where he's able to roam and have that freedom. If you put him behind Lukaku, he's not going to have that freedom because Lukaku's going to have that freedom. So, I mean, I agree that you need to kind of pick a three and go with it. But at the same time, I think you have to look at like skill sets and what you need, because if you put Lukaku, Mount, and Havertz in there, then you're losing dribbling. But if you put Pulisic in there and Lukaku and Mount, you're kind of missing that free roam ability that Havertz does bring. Because I don't really back Havertz as like a fantastic dribbler in this league. I've not seen it. I've seen him have good touches, but I don't see great dribbling. Not to say that Pulisic or Cho haven't had great dribbling in the last couple months, but I don't know. I think there's a balance we got to find, and I don't know the balance, and I think especially with playing so many games so close together with all these players that, I mean, they're getting injured already because they're playing too much, and it's not even like they're playing every game. I mean, the players that are getting injured are the ones playing every game, but it's just hard to have like 6 different competitions that you're fighting for and then get chemistry. I think that's the hard part. I mean, and it's a Rona season, so everything's more congested than it probably normally is. And on top of that, they're talking about adding more competitions for the players to have. I mean, what is it? Once every 3 years, players have a summer off or something like that. Like, I think it's ridiculous how many times these players play. So
it depends
think
on which play, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, the players who play the most and our best players probably go to national duty, and they have tournaments that they have to play over the summer. So, I mean, who's the what? I mean, Alonso. I mean, if the current lineup right there, all of them go to their national team, every one of them, except Cho. If you add Cho, but even that, Cho's working to get there. So, I mean, everybody on that plays for the national.
Qualified for the World Cup yet?
Not yet, but I'm pretty sure Pulisic has a game coming up in like 2 weeks. Will he'll go? I don't know.
No,
they have a random game in February.
They have one in January.
Yeah, no,
I think.
Yeah, Pulisic won't go to that.
I hope not. I'd rather him not go.
He won't go.
That'd be outrageous. You can't just go to a random friendly game.
It's not a friendly. It's a World Cup qualifier.
Do they just do?
They have one random one in January. They have one random one in January. I don't know why.
Yeah, he won't go.
No, he can't go. Like, well, it's just not allowed in the discussion. One small realization I've had, or maybe slight change of my own opinion. what about the logic that we should just basically go all guns blazing against Spurs to start the game? Because once we get one, especially if we get two, but even one, we're basically done. And then because we have 5 subs in the League Cup, we can take all of the good players off who we need to rest for City, who we play Saturday early kickoff.
Yes.
So maybe we shouldn't be doing Aspie right wing back type of scenario, like keep the ball type thing. Maybe we should just go all guns blazing, do this whole like back 4 kerfuffle, obviously switch Rudiger and Thiago Silva around if you want to, doesn't matter, and just, do what you need to do. Maybe. I don't know if that's what we should be doing. But then obviously you're talking Kai again, probably. As long as it's not Timo, do you know what I mean? Maybe we should be doing that just to start with, get a goal, and then takes people off, and then we can still shift to the back 3. Thoughts, Ian?
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Fair enough. Clutch?
It makes sense to me, but I think Tuchel is going to try to keep Conte on his heels rather than... Because Conte might be expecting this now. So, I mean, he's had one game. Did he even play over the weekend?
It's the mind game, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Because Conte might sit there expecting it, but he's not sure whether we're actually going to do it.
Yeah, but I think part of the reason it worked is because it was completely out of the blue. Like, this was... Everybody was shocked by doing this. So I think that's the main reason it worked. I mean, we didn't look excellent. I mean, Spurs were really bad, and we probably should have put 10 past them because they were just that bad. But I don't know. Yeah, I think you should try it. I mean, go for the kill, because that's something we don't really do. Is we don't really go for the kill. When we're comfortable, we just kind of let things slide, and that's where we get hurt. So if you're wanting to go for the kill, which I think is probably a good idea, do this.
I mean, I see the whole, but, if Spurs want to, like, prepare for us doing this, hey, please do, because that just makes them more defensive and less likely to score, and that's what they need to do. So, happily, please do that. And Becky, while I'm not saying that Lukaku can press, João Felix plays for Atletico Madrid. They don't even know how to spell the word press. So, you don't know whether João Felix can press. Yeah, anyway. João Felix, not saying he's a bad player, not by any means, but not a Premier League lone striker. Like, that's insanity to me. But I think, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round it out here. I'll ask you boys for your score predictions. Who do I start with? Let's start with you, Clutch.
Since they only have Harry Kane, I'm going to throw a random guess of a 1-1 draw. And the reason why I'm going to do this 1-1 draw random guess is I think Charity FC is going to be in full effect and Dele Alli will get a goal.
Now you've made me depressed, mate. Cheers. Yeah. Ian, did he steal your thunder? Was that your prediction?
Not only did he steal my thunder, he even stole my exact goal scorer as well. I had Dele Alli to just pop up and get one to try and revive the tie, but
it makes a random sense, doesn't it? Just for some reason, just Dele Alli has sucked for 2 years straight, and now he's going to get a random goal against Chelsea. That's just how it feels like that kind of day.
That would just score against us. That is exactly it. He's just a complete knob that would step up and get a goal. So I'm going to pick 1-1.
You're going to go 1-1. I don't know what I'll go with, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm to be honest, I'm going to go 2-0 again. And I think it should, and I think we'll be a similar situation where we sat there at the end of the game and like we should have scored more, but we didn't. Honestly, listen to Conte in his press conferences. Conte doesn't even think they can win. So if his team watch his press conference, they're not even going to try to beat us anyway. And that's what they played in the last game. And now they don't have their best player. Yes, Harry Kane, but Harry Kane is a great player, but the way he plays, either needs someone to play the ball to, or someone to get the ball from. And without Son, he doesn't have either of that. So, that's my worry. Or not worry. My opinion. I'm going to go 2-0. I'm going to back it. Because I don't want it to be boring. But I also think it's important that we go for it. And again, build more confidence. Because we're playing bloody City. And City is the only team that has outplayed us so far this season. And they've drastically outplayed us. when they beat us 2-0 at the bridge. Like, we couldn't even tie the bloody laces that day. So I hope Tuchel has a plan, and I hope the players are fit, and I hope the players are ready. And any bit of confidence that we still lack in, I hope we can fight it into our system tomorrow. That would be fantastic. Laurenz, Felix is more like a fluid pressing 9, not a static Lukaku. He can play like a Foden, Messi in a false 9 role. But you say this on the basis of playing for Atletico Madrid, who don't do this. So on the basis of what have you made that decision? I don't understand. But anyway, enough talk about João Felix. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, which I haven't told you yet today, which is poor from me to be honest, please be sure to subscribe. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Hit the big red subscribe button below. It doesn't cost you any money. And you'll make sure that you'll see the live stream post-game tomorrow when we'll obviously do our player ratings and give a live reaction to the game. Smash the like button for me as well if you haven't done just yet. It really helps me out with the algorithm and it doesn't cost you any money. It barely costs you any time. So go down below, hit that like button for me. Check out Ian's channel, to which, of course, the link is down in the description at Craigo28Football. Of course, check out Clutch's Twitter as well. Link to that is also down in the description. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to round it out here. Thank you guys for watching. Both are back in training. That goes for N'Golo Kante and Thiago Silva. Clutch has just informed us, so that's fantastic news. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and we'll see you next time.